So we're back with another episode of the formerly unnamed show, and I think we're going to call it My Way or the Highway.
Perfect.
With Annette LaRue, of course.
Yeah.
And if you got a question, please ask, okay? Somebody did ask me a question last week, and I will attempt to answer it later if I remember.
You might not get the answer you like, but you're going to get
You're going to hear something. If I can remember the question, because I didn't write it down. So we got Johnny Casino here. He's visiting from Australia. He lives in Spain. He's an Aussie. And we got Chuck producing.
Yeah.
And we got Alex back here fact-checking. So we got a whole team here today at Electromagnetic Tattoo.
Absolutely pro.
We're semi-professional. Yeah. I have to say that thank you, Joe Capobianco, because he's the one that told me about how to set this up and how to do this and turn me on to the apps and the equipment and stuff. So Joe, thanks. He's got a great show called Not For Nothing. You can find it on YouTube. And you can look at it after you look at mine, okay? So we were talking about something funny last night, Johnny. I can't remember because I'm jet lagged from being in Japan, but...
We were talking about... I think we were talking about how a lot of history or a lot of things sort of get pushed to a side. You walk into a tattoo shop, seem to be in a storage room on the floor behind a rubbish bin, or
that's right.
You know what I mean? It just seems to be, and it'd be a shame if a lot of that stuff is lost to the world, because no one, I think that when I first went home from Philadelphia to Australia, I think that Tony, my old boss, Tony Cohen, I think that he thought that was over. All that stuff was finished. It was just junk. It was rubbish that he hadn't thrown out yet. And then after working for him for 6 months, I sort of built up the gumption to say, why is all this stuff sitting on the floor back there getting damaged from water or dirt or whatever, being mistreated?
And it was literally a dirt floor. I remember you telling me.
It was. It was no floor. It was the ground, the earth.
And this is in Sydney, downtown Sydney.
This is in the centre city.
In the modern times.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when I asked him about it, he was like, it's fucking rubbish. No one's thrown it out yet. To him, because no one was getting that kind of designs anymore back in the 90s, he just looked at it like its lifespan was over. It was finished. So to him, it was rubbish. It was just taking up space. But I think that it should be preserved, a lot of this stuff. It should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that some people don't have the time to take care of it and most certainly Tony can't be, he's not the kind of guy that's only about money, because he's all about the history as well. But inside the shop, he just wants it to, whatever's in there, he wants it to be beneficial for the business of tattooing, which is people coming in and paying money for tattoos.
Yeah, I get it, yeah. Well, stuff does go in and out of style, but you're still going to find that straggler that wants a fucking tribal tramp stamp. Although, have we done any of those lately in the shop? I don't think so.
I wish.
I loved doing those.
Yeah.
You could get them in the right position.
I did like a little tribal tramp stamp maybe like a month ago or something like that.
Yeah. So
That's
you never know. But I have a stack taller than me of original JD Crow Flash from when we bought the shop. The whole shop had that. And we kind of cycled some out. We still have some in. What the fuck am I going to do with it? Because it's laminated. It weighs 9,000 pounds.
Right.
But they're great designs. But actually now he's got books. He's got all those designs in books. It's a little easier to carry it around or look at it. And so if anybody needs the JD Crow Flash, you can get it directly from him, or you can buy it used from me.
It's interesting you say that, because when I did go back from Philly to Australia, the walls in the Illustrated Man in Tony's shop were filled with Cherry Creek. But in the back of one of the racks was 50, 60 sheets of JD Crow tattoo brand stuff. So it was like, when I came back from Philadelphia and at Cadillac in Manioc, there was just traditional tattoo flash on the wall, So when I walked into the Illustrated Man and just seen all this cherry, I almost shit my pants. I was like, I got no idea what I'm going to fucking do here, you know.
That's hard to
so
tattoo
going
small.
through,
Yeah.
going through the rack and actually finding JD Crow Flash, tattoo brand Flash, I was like, oh, okay, at least there's something here I'm familiar with, you know.
Yeah.
It was funny because I spoke to JD Crow when I was here one time, and he said to say hello to Tony because Tony was always always bought his latest Flash and that.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have that connection.
Yeah. I read a funny story about National Tattoo and how they treated Tony once. And I read it in the Philadelphia Eddie book. And if my memory is correct, Tony called and all he wanted was some talons.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was Pelican,
Yeah.
some lining ink. And Flo got pissed. Flo didn't. Don, the cop, got pissed and didn't want to send it. It's just that one thing. And I don't know if Tony ever got mad about that or whatever, but I'm sure
Tony,
he didn't feel real good.
No, because he was someone who, he could have been ordering, when I first started working for Tony, he could have been ordering supplies from any supplier in Australia, which there were some back then, but he was a little bit like, no, this is what I've been doing since the 60s, and you know, every 3 months or twice a year or something like that, because America being so far away, he would like ask everyone, I'm making an order to National, you know what I mean? It was nearly like some sort of ritual to him.
Yeah.
Even if he knew he could get it down the street.
Yeah.
That was something that he did that he'd been doing for a long time. And I think it was important to him that he kept that line open, you know what I mean? So I'm sure that if he just did want some ink and he needed it and they didn't send it, that probably pissed him off because he was all about that sort of thing, you know?
Chuck, can we see Johnny when he's talking to me? Is the camera right so it shows him, or is he too far to the side when he's talking to me?
Which camera?
His camera.
No, it's perfect.
When he's looking at, like, kind of looking at me, like there. See, he's to the side. That's too far to the side. I'm going to move this camera.
Side?
I'm going to cut
Okay.
it. I'm going to cut it out. I'll edit it. Steve kind of showed me how to use the iMovie thing.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, that is definitely more. Here, I'd say even.
So look at me, Johnny. Or should it be over here even more?
I just feel like now that might be too empty over there, even though he's not in the middle.
You can crop it, can't you?
Maybe move that chair. I think that might look a little better. Well, he's right in the middle there.
So if I'm looking at
if
it
he goes that way, I think that's good. But that's still going to catch his side, though.
Well, a little bit's fine. I felt like it was just catching the complete side of his face.
I think that might be better.
Which, you got a pretty face, Johnny.
Maybe you got to do that one. Right there. Mm-hmm. Right there. That's good.
You can see the paw in the VA.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Back to it. Where were we? I'm sorry.
Where were we, Alex? You're the information person.
Jamie, where were we?
We were talking about the Flash. So Cherry Creek.
Yeah.
My God.
You were talking about, I believe at Tony's, how there was all the Cherry Creek in the back
It was on the
front.
And the
That was
walls.
all
And in
over
the
it.
back, you had the flipper. Now, you were telling me a funny story that you found some Flash and you wanted to stick it in the flipper, and so what happened?
I was, going through the back, like, little storage room, which again was on dirt. Somehow we got away with the back part of the tattoo shop being on like a dirt floor nearly. But I remember going through it one day and I stumbled across what I thought was like a treasure trove of like I'd seen designs very similar to this before, just, classic American traditional designs, but they were painted and coloured in a different way and put on board in a different, that I'd never seen before. Classic eagles and pin-up girls and, you know what I mean? Like slightly different, but, very similar. And I found, it's 25 years ago now or longer, that I found what may have been like 50, 60 sheets, and they were laid out, which I thought looked beautiful. It was black, the board. Then there was a yellow, shape of the design, and then the design stuck on top in white, and it just looked so appealing to me. And the designs look great. And of course, I was still looking for something that I felt comfortable to tattoo or wanted to tattoo. Because even after a few years of working there, I was still looking at some of that Cherry Creek stuff going, how many lines can I leave out?
Right.
Because that's what it was about for me. I was like, surely it doesn't need all these lines in it. You know what I mean?
But you got to have something.
Yeah. But there was so much of it. And for a young tattooer, it was just like, what can I leave out? And it's trial and error. As much as a customer may not like to hear that, it is. It's the basic facts in any job, in any, you're learning. So when I found these sheets, I was like, fuck. And I remembered, I'm not sure if Tony was in that day or something like that, or his son Brett was in that day, but I brung them out and I'm like, look at these, and Tony was like, what? Kind of thing. And I'm like, we need to put these up on the wall. And he's like, that shit ain't going up on the fucking wall. We're here to make money, not fucking sit around playing with our dicks, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck, we can sell this stuff. And he's like, you can't sell that. If I can't sell it, you can't sell it. What chance, But I was just looking at it thinking like, fuck, it looks so cool, you know what I mean? So we had this, like a, what do you call them, a rack or where the pages, like that.
Yeah.
And it was big, and I pestered him for a couple of weeks, like, let me put some of this up. And he's like, no. Eventually, I think I wore him down, and he said, right, you can have the final 4 pages in the flipper, which had 50, things, or 30. He's like, you can have the last 4. Put it up there. You can put them up there. Choose the ones you want to put up there. Put them up there. So then it was I chose the good 16, because you could fit 4 on each page or something like that. I thought, right, this is my chance, you know what I mean? Put them up there. And then it was like, each day, he would say to me, you sold something off them sheets yet? I'd be like, nah. The next day, you sold something off them sheets? Nah. And after like a couple of weeks, he's like, I fucking told you, right? Now you're wasting space in my, you know what I mean? Like, there could have been something else up there that could have made you money. And I'm like, so he eventually made me take them down.
That was expensive real estate, wasn't it?
And he said, we had a big plant there in the corner of the shop, that sat in the corner. And he's like, if you can get rid of the plant, because it was old and dirty and dusty and whatever, and you can make one sheet and just put it up there in the corner near the window, and that's it. That's all I'm, because I kind of looked at it like it's the history of the shop, or the history of Tony's history, It was interesting the way that they were painted too, or not painted. They weren't on solid board or Arches paper like I see Flash here in America painted. It was like kind of a heavier grade paper, but it was paper upon paper upon paper to make the black layer, the yellow, and then the one on top.
Right.
But the actual designs would have been inked in black, and the black shading would have been painted in black. But then everything else was color pencil, and not even like you were saying last night, not even a good quality waxy pencil. It nearly looked like the kind of colored pencils you bought your kid to go to school with. You know what I mean? It didn't look like anything special. And they colored them in a different way that I'd never seen before. Because
you learned in America.
Right.
You learned under Howie at Cadillac, right? And so you learned a more American traditional colors and stuff.
So I would see them sitting there, and I'd be thinking, why is there purple in the wing of this fucking eagle? Or why is there green in the head of this eagle? Or why is, it was nearly like they had 8 colours, so they used 8 colours. It was just a different, I'd never seen anything but black, or black running off into a little bit of brown or a little bit of grey in the wing of an eagle.
Right.
Or even in the wing of a bird or of a swallow. I'd only ever seen shaded out black, you know what I mean? Like never was there a colour. Well, when I got to Australia, there was always blue. Of the swallows, there was always blue or green in the wings of the swallows.
Okay.
So I looked at it, just looked strange to me. I could see that the design was almost the same, but the way that it was coloured was different. And when my father had tattoos from Tony, and I noticed in his tattoos that there would be colours in areas of his tattoos that I wasn't used to seeing from when I learned learning in Philadelphia. It's just a different take on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to steal that idea and set up my flash in Philadelphia for the convention.
With the black, with the yellow.
Yeah.
It's really eye-catching. Like when you you know what I mean? Like it just your eyes just go straight to the design.
Good.
I sometimes think that I see, like if you take JD Crow's flash, there was never too many designs on the page.
Right.
And now I find some days when I see flash, there's too many designs on the page. You know what I mean?
It's too busy.
It's too busy, so you can't sort of lock in or focus on, if there's. I kind of always like the idea of sort of one big one in the center and just like one here and one there, or just 4 on a page, not 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think that the customer can see the designs better when there's less for them to look at. If it's too much, they can't see the designs.
Yeah. Well, somebody once said, give them 2 panthers to choose from, or give them 2 eagles, give them 2 roses. If you give them 500 fucking roses or a book of roses, they're going to get all confused.
They're going to ask for more.
Right.
They're going to say, I don't see anything I like. But if you just give them, you want a panther? Here. They choose one.
Yeah.
You give them a book full of panthers, they're like, I'm not sure it is.
Yeah.
I found the one that I want.
Yeah. And we're talking about old times when people got flash, and you might do that one panther or the other, and you'd change it up as you're tattooing it. Like I would. I always did the chin different.
Yeah.
Mike Wilson showed me a different way to do the tail, and I always do the tail that way, even if it wasn't on the flash. So people hate flash, but they're all different anyway.
Well,
so.
even shading them in a different way depending on where they were on someone's body. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, people don't think about that. No. But, hey, if you can draw a fucking badass panther like Mike Wilson right on the skin, go ahead, do it and kill it.
Yeah.
I'm come from the time when it was a kind of a flash thing. It was get them in, get them out, because there's 30 fucking people waiting. So you didn't have that luxury.
I don't think we even had a computer to facilitate people's designs when I worked for Tony. I can't remember the exact year, but I think we kept, or I think it was Tony or Brett that kept saying, no, we don't need no fucking computer in here. We don't need a computer. It wasn't until we started doing so much lettering, and it wasn't just, there was a couple of years there where you were just doing Old English rockers. You were doing 3-4 of them a day. You were just doing them all the time. People getting their last name or across the back of the chest or something like that. And if it was script, you could just get your Sharpie out and give yourself 2 guidelines and draw it on and do it. But with the Old English, you could do that if you want, but it was a long time to get it really nice. And so I think it was when we were doing so much lettering, and it was that Old English rockers and across the tummy and stuff like that, we nearly got it so that we could go into the program, type out Charlie Wynn, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And tattoo it.
Yeah.
And get that person not fucking around either.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And Tony was like, if you were overly chatty with the customer, no, you were wasting his fucking time. Tony's time.
Love it. Oh yeah.
And the customer's time.
Right.
Like he'd have a word to you later on, like, listen, just get him fucking tattooed.
Yeah.
Don't leave him sitting in that chair in the waiting room to change their mind.
Right. That's what
get him
said.
in that chair.
Get him in there as
I
quick
know
as
this
possible.
like this may sound to a lot of like I'm not using the correct words, and I'm not politically right when I say any of this shit. I'm just telling you what I knew and what I went through, you know, what I lived in the short time that I've tattooed in comparison to other people. But he was, so some modern people might think, oh, that's a bit ruthless or it's not very nice. That it was a different time. Mm-hmm. And they came in and that's what they wanted, but he was about like, get them in that chair and get them out. Like, don't sit there goofing around with the drawing trying to perfect it. They picked the one off the wall. Don't do too much to it, you know? He was just, and I remember this one guy that worked for Tony that like, he liked to have a cigarette.
Oh.
And that's, you know, that's to put it, like he would talk to the customer, go outside, have a cigarette, come back in, set up his station, go back outside, have a cigarette, get the customer in the chair, put the stencil on him, say, give me 15 minutes, go outside, have a cigarette, get the outline done, go outside, have it. This motherfucker smoking a pack of cigarettes before he finished the tattoo.
Yeah.
And
that's bullshit.
That was Tony, like, and Tony didn't mind, you know, Tony's been a smoker, but like, he was like, you come to work to fucking, like, get this is how I want it done. You can go work somewhere else if you want to do it somewhere else. But when you're here, this is, you know, and people may not like that, but you got to respect that. The guy been tattooing since fucking, you know, Jesus was a boy.
Yeah.
I'm being an arsehole saying that, but he, you know.
At least, what, 50, 40, 50, at least 50
years.
I've been 35 and
Tony's been tattooing, I want to say, 55 years or more.
Yeah. So it was a different time. It was different. And
it might even be getting close to 60 years. Because I forget exactly how old he is, but I think he's like late 70s. And I want to say he started tattooing when he was 16, 17. You know what I mean? Like in his mum's kitchen or something like that on his buddies, you know. But I don't know. I think that they, you know, there's lots of things that people do that we don't like. You know what I mean? Or you know, like when I first started working for Tony, there was a lot of things that I was like, fucking hell, that seems, you know, he's a hard motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I thought it was harsh. But I learned after a little while that, like, that's the way he is. And that's the way he is because of all these days leading up to this day. You know? He's that way for that reason. And I had to teach myself to respect that and just go like, well, he's an arsehole to me for this reason because of this, and this that's happened to him over the last 40 years.
It's such, you know, people don't have that attitude anymore. They don't appreciate the people they work for a lot.
Precious with, we're all important to each other, and you got to treat yourself well for other people to treat you well. But you're not that important in the grand scheme of things.
We're just tattooing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
and
not
counseling
some
people a little bit, you know.
I don't like this. I'm better than you because I'm the same as the guy who fucking works at the gas station.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make a living and do it the best way that I can, so that I can enjoy being with my wife or enjoy being with my friends or doing the silly things that I might do. You know what I mean? Like otherwise, you know, I think the lucky thing that we have is that we are involved in an industry that we actually like.
Yeah.
We appreciate the art side of it. We see things and it excites us and we go, oh, fuck.
And
I see Charlie do something and I go like, oh, fuck, I might try that next time. You know what I mean? Something that I wouldn't have thought that I'd do, or Chris or Martin or Jake or yourself, Annette or Steve. I just think there's always room to learn off of whether you've been tattooing for 50 years or 5 years. There's something that you can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
But I think that we also got to respect where someone come from and what they went through. And I think that there's too much prima donna, there's too much I'm important and you're not bullshit. Because when you work for someone, you got to work together with others too. It's not just about one person, you know. I'm no good guy either. I know that I say this shit and sometimes it makes me sound like the good guy. I can be a prick too. We all can. But I don't know. like to keep it simple for me, and the small things that I learned that I think have lasted the test of time, just keep them close,
Yeah.
you know, and try to forget about the bullshit that goes on.
Well, and time tells. Time
Yeah.
doesn't stop. It changes everything.
Time's the teacher too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll learn.
Well, I see people nowadays, and I don't want to keep complaining about young people or young tattooers or people that haven't been tattooing that long. They don't want to believe the stuff that we did 25 years ago. I'm the same as them. I did exactly the opposite of what my teacher said because I didn't fucking believe her. Right. I thought, she's just telling me that. And I did it. And then the proof is in the fucking tattoo. It sucked. It was stupid.
Right.
You don't do that, you know?
So you learned.
But I see every day online. Okay, and I don't like social media, but I feel like I have to do it, so I know what my peers are doing and what is happening in the tattoo business. I'm old, but I don't want to not know. And when I put in a single needle tattoo, that single needle line stays perfect. I know it will forever. Well, no, it fucking won't. Come look at this single needle shit I have on me that the lady that taught me said was going to last forever. If you think forever is 5 years, then yes, it's going to last forever. But if you give it 20 or 30, I don't give a fuck who puts it in, how they float it in the skin, what needle they use. It's going to fucking spread. It's not going to look as good. And the young tattooers don't believe us. And just come look at my fucking tattoos.
Yeah.
Anybody. You see me at a convention, come look at my fucking tattoo. I'll show you that I have a single needle tattoo and the line is this fucking thing. Right. And the lady had been tattooing 10 years. She was an expert artist, expert tattooer, and the tattoo's shitty. Right. And I want to cover it, but it's going to hurt. I don't want to.
But don't you think that's the way of society now? It doesn't seem, like when you got tattooed, it was forever. You knew that.
Yeah.
So there was not about like, oh, I don't care what it looks like in 5 years' time. No. It was like, I'm getting this.
I want it to look
good.
I want it
to look good. I'm not getting it because I'm buying a new T-shirt and if it gets torn up, I don't care. No. It was like, I want this it's going to be on me forever. I think that's forgotten a little bit about as well.
Definitely is.
I think there's a generation of people that are, because... What was it? Me and you were having a conversation, Charlie, about like consumerism and about if your TV breaks, before you would buy a TV and you wanted it to last for 30 years, but now after 5 years it breaks down, you throw it away and get a new one. You don't repair it.
There's no TV repairman anymore.
Right.
Your TV breaks, you fucking throw it in the garbage.
Right.
You're not recycling shit. You're throwing it in the garbage and you go buy a new one.
Right.
You know?
That's the way. I mean, I think that it was weird as it may feel. I think that people come in to get tattooed sometimes and they're not thinking about 20 years. They're not even thinking about
tomorrow.
Yeah, they're thinking about now and how this is going to look good on social when they take their selfie of then some young, ugly girl or good looking girl, whichever way it is, with some giant fucking thing on the side of her throat and it's her second tattoo. No, I've got one tattoo. I got a little star. From here to here, you know what I mean? From this to this on the...
Because to live with that is gotta be easy. It can't be easy.
It's forever.
You can't, you know. No, I didn't tattoo below my elbows till I was 35. Because, back in the day, in the 80s, it was not cool for chicks to have that. Like, I got a lot of shit for it. And now it makes me so mad that these fucking girls can just walk around with anywhere.
I've had my hands tattooed since I was about 18. But at the same token, I was in bands working shitty jobs, hanging with tattooers.
Right.
Well, I was a laborer and a bartender and waitress. Like, I could have had my hands tattooed, but I didn't want people to look at me like I was a fucking hooker or unless I was a hooker.
That has changed.
And now it's changed. My banker has a fucking hand tattoo, which is fine, but they think they're the same as me, and they don't understand the shit I put up with and the names I was called in public. People come up to me to my face and tell me how disgusting my hands were, or my arms. I didn't even have my hands tattooed then, just my arms. you know?
No,
I
you
got
have to-
fired from a job shoveling horse shit out of a fucking stable. It was April and it was Florida and it started out cold in the day and I had a flannel on and like maybe a cap sleeve or maybe even a tank top, and right before lunchtime, about 11:30, I was sweating my ass off. I took that tank top off. The owner walked through the fucking stable, saw I had one tattoo right here, and after lunch he came to me and said, you can pack up. We don't need you anymore. And I said, did I do something wrong? What happened? Did somebody complain about me? He's like, no, we just don't need you anymore. And I was like, what the fuck? So I got on my fucking Harley and I peeled out and I left. And I knew the other girl that worked there and I saw her at the liquor store a couple days later. And I was like, what happened? He said, he hated your fucking tattoo. He thought you were a scumbag. He didn't like the fact that you rode a Harley to his Arabian horse farm, you know, but he knew you were a good worker. And then when he saw the tattoo, that was it.
This goes back to that thing I said before about like, you lived all these stories, went through all these things to get to this point. And we need to understand that people might be a certain way because of what they've had to live through.
So I tell girls, don't get a masculine tattoo. This could change your life. Steve and I were just in Japan, and fortunately they didn't look at us like we were, criminals, because we're Western, we're Gaijin, and they're not going to look at us that way. But it's still kind of embarrassing to me that they do look at you in a weird way. Yeah. And they're very conservative there. Americans think they're conservative. Please. Yeah. You Trumpers are not conservative. Go to Japan and you'll know what conservative is, okay? And you'll feel really shitty. It's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not an individual thing there.
Yeah. When I first went to work for Tony, when I left Philadelphia, I'm now remembering that we weren't allowed. He didn't want us tattooing women on below the shirt line.
Yeah.
And like if he came in and we'd done one or he's seen us doing one, he'd pull us aside and say, "Hey, I fucking told you that I don't want." Like, and he was like, no hands, no face,
never,
no necks. But on women, he was still like, "I don't want to see you guys tattooing women where they can't cover it up."
Yeah.
And then I think it was after a couple of years that we were like, "Listen, Tony, like, no disrespect, but times have changed, and if we're going to say no to girls getting a tattoo on the wrist here, they're going to go down the street." Well, at that time there was no other shops in the downtown, but they were going to find someone who would. So but he wouldn't. If someone come in, he'd say, "Get Brett to do it, or get Gary to do it, get Johnny to do it." You know what I mean? He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "No, I'm not tattooing the woman on the below her shirt line."
Well, that's how I am to this day about faces. Like, cosmetic tattooing is one thing if it's done well. I will not tattoo something on somebody's face. Yeah. I can't do it. I just feel like, first of all, it looks like fucking pubic hair if it's small. And then what, you want somebody staring at that? If you want it, that's fine, but I'm not doing it. I'm gonna let somebody that has a facial tattoo do it. So, well, Chuck will do it. Martin has face tattoos, doesn't he? He'll do it. And then Tex worked here for a little bit, and I made Tex do all those too. But Steve or I will not tattoo a face. I don't even like tattooing hands unless you got a bunch of them. And it used to be a rule at my New Orleans shop: no hands unless you got fucking sleeves. Yeah. Or you're a millionaire. And if you can prove you're a millionaire or you're self-employed, then fine. Nowadays,
that's their first tat.
Right.
And if you don't do that for them, they're gonna go down the street.
Else.
Yeah. And then
you might lose them for good.
You might end up fixing it. So
you could.
That has happened. Okay.
So
but that's the thing though too. Is it's like they've come here. You want to keep them here. You know what I mean? So as times change, you've got to adapt a little bit.
I've had to adapt. I don't like it, but I've had to modernize and adapt. And I complain and I bitch about it, but I let the guys do it. I mean,
in saying that, if Tony wouldn't tattoo the girls on the arms or the hands or anything like that, if a girl was in there and wanted something on a boob or near a crotch, like, he'd be knocking you over to fucking get to that. He'd be like, "I'm doing that. Tony, you're busy." He's like, "I'm not too busy to fucking here, Johnny. You come and finish this one. I'm doing that one."
Howie was like that too, wasn't he? we love.
That wasn't too different. Moving from Philadelphia to there, Howard and Tony had similarities when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Knocking you over.
Cadillac Tattoo, 1992.
So I think it was, I don't know the exact year, but it was 92 or 93 that he opened it in Manayunk there on Crescent Street with Eric. But I first met him in either 93 or 94. He came to Australia because he's a big fan of a lot of Australian music that I've been involved with and other friends of mine have been involved with. So that's where I first met him. He ended up in Australia and he went there. He's actually tattooing there too. He went and I want to say he worked a couple of days for a woman called Kiwi Kim who used to work for Tony. And he was sleeping on a friend of mine who was into punk rock. He was sleeping on his floor and the friend said, listen, I think you're more into this stuff. You need to meet Johnny and you need to meet Scotty who used to play bass with me. And that's where we met. And then I think it was the same day that he packed up his shit off our other mate's floor and came and stayed with us.
And how was he involved in music? Was he a singer? Producer? What did he do?
Well, see, we use the term singer loosely when you talk about
Screamer?
a screamer, a yeller, and an instigator, you know?
Okay. Well, I did hear one song you guys did a cover. Was that Easy Action?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I heard that.
Yeah.
Steve played that for me. That sounded like it was so fucking fun to
That was
record.
fun. That was a fun band.
Yeah.
That was a fun band.
Yeah.
But he was in that band Rancid Vat with Eric and a guy called the Whiskey Rebel and his wife Vera, I want to say I can't remember, but they had that band which was all part of those bands like Anti-Scene and all those kind of different bands.
Okay.
But yeah, he came to Australia just because he wanted to check out a bunch of music and he wanted to. I think he did some tattooing, but then once he met me, he started staying with me a little bit more often. And then the first time I came to America to play concerts was again 95 or 96, I don't remember. And he helped with some of the concerts, and we did a tour for a month. And he was on the tour with me for not the whole month, but for a good 2 or 3 weeks of the month.
And you became fast friends, obviously.
Yeah. We become really close quite fast.
Okay, good.
You know,
Good.
he's an interesting. He's an interesting person. He's a very complex person.
Yeah.
When you get to know him, not on the surface. When you get to know him deeper, he was tough love. But when you loved him dearly.
Close that door.
You know, but there was a lot of, like, we all have faults.
Yeah.
Nothing's. We all have our own madnesses and crazies and stuff like that. But he was hard. He was difficult. But, and if he loved you well as well. You know what I mean?
I'm lucky. He liked me, but I didn't know him until kind of towards the end, last maybe 7 or 8 years of his life. And he was more friends with Steve. But I knew who he was, and he was kind of a magical character, you know. So I bet learning and working with him was interesting every fucking day, huh?
Yeah. Like I've said, I've had this conversation with Steve before that I feel a little bit. I've seen him teach other people how to tattoo as well, and it made me go like, "Fuck, you weren't that hard on me." And I think it was just because our friendship began because he had some sort of respect or some sort of, not aw's the wrong word because it makes me sound like I'm important and it's not, but like he had some sort of like, there was a friendship outside of
He respected you, Johnny.
Yeah. So when he was teaching me, I think I had it pretty easy in comparison to other people I've seen him teach, you know what I mean? I wasn't getting yelled at every fucking day for this or that, you know what I mean? Like, there was things that he yelled at me for, you know what I mean? And he should have, and he did, you know what I mean? But, like, I've seen him be pretty brutal with other people, you know?
I've heard some stories.
Yeah.
And we keep the Howie tradition going here at Electromagnetic, and we think about him almost every day. And copy some of his mannerisms and some of his slogans and things like that.
Steve does some good. Steve's got some good ones.
He's got the memory of a fucking dog or elephant. I don't, which is better. I don't want to call
maybe
that.
it's a Philly thing though too. But Steve's can do his voice pretty close as well.
Yeah,
you know
he does. And we even have Chris. Chris can even imitate Howie, and has never met him.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fucking cool. So after you learned there, you went back. You went back to your home, Australia, and working for Tony. And that's an interesting character too, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of there is some similarities between the two of them. You know what I mean, with motorcycles, of course. But yeah, they're both. Again, with Tony, if lots of people, I used to hear lots of bad things, lots of people putting shit on Tony, and then once I started to work for him and knew him, as far as I was concerned, if I had something bad to say about Tony, then I could say it because I loved him and he loved me, and there was a certain kind of respect there. But if I heard other people putting shit on him, I wasn't having it.
Especially if it wasn't true or something like that.
Yeah, or just people over, like we were talking about before, about like, well, you don't know where they come from or what they went through to get to that point.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they do things in a certain way, and I felt the same way about Howard or Cosmo, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I knew bad shit that he did, and you know what I mean? But like, that's what I guess friends do when you have a close relationship. It's like you got their back. Even if they're not around, you got their, you know what I mean? You don't want to hear it. You know.
No, don't say nothing about Chris or Chuck or Jake or none of my boys or Steve or you, Johnny. Nobody talks shit about you. But
the only person who's allowed to make fun of Jake is me, and Chuck. Chris, and you, and Martin. Anyone else ever say anything, they get fucked up.
Yeah, I agree.
Gang mentality.
Yeah. That's right. We're a fucking gang here at EMT. We'll fuck you up. You talk shit on our people. Or anybody I love or care about. Don't fucking talk like that in front of me, because I'm going to get mad, okay? I'm going to fucking tell you something. I'm going to get sassy. You're going to catch some words.
So when Howard was sending, when I was going home, he was like, look, he sort of said to me, your dream job would be to work for Tony. And I really didn't know too much. I only knew what I had learnt in Philadelphia. I didn't know too much about Australian tattooing at all. Okay. I knew that my father had been tattooed by Tony, and my uncles had been tattooed by Tony, and another tattooer called Dutchie, who was, him and Tony were kind of mates and started around the same sort of time. But that's about all I knew. I didn't know too much. But Cosmo was like, go see if you can get a job there. But he did warn me. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be jumping in the deep end kind of thing. Yeah. You know?
Well, that was good, though. That's probably, I know from experience, that's the best way to learn to tattoo. I learned in Florida in a slow, kind of sleepy town outside of Daytona, and then moved to New Orleans to work for Jackie. First week I worked for Jackie, I did more tattoos than a month in Florida. Right. And I needed that to learn to get good, because I wasn't going to excel any other way. And Tony's shop was busy like that too.
Yeah. Like a classic walk-in shop.
Mid-90s?
96, 97.
Okay. And Tony was into bikes, huh?
Yeah.
Harleys and stuff?
Yeah.
And he had a little club thing or something?
He has Tony is part of a... Australia, I guess it's the same here in America, where when you use the term motorcycle gang, people instantly think of, I don't know, drugs and doing bad shit or something like that. Yeah. And it is kind of looked on a little bit like that in Australia as well, which is why years later they tried to bring licensing into tattooing, because they wanted to try to get the motorcycle gangs out of ownership. But Tony, the way I see it, and I don't for one second pretend to know too much about this sort of stuff, but Tony's gang, called the Mob Shitters, which is, it's got to be the greatest name ever.
Everybody got laugh at that.
The Mob Shitters.
No, I love the way you say it. The Mob Shitters. Yeah. Doesn't sound the same in American. Mob Shitters.
No, the Mob Shitters.
The Mob Shitters.
With a classic, like, yellow gold type T-shirt with brown logo on it, like shit brown color. You know what I mean? Logo on it. You know.
And what kind of shit were they into besides shitting on the moms?
they seemed to more because like they were in the tattoo shop a lot. On Saturdays they'd come and hang out with Tony, or they'd have, you know what I mean? Like they were just seemed like a bunch of friendly sort of older guys that hung out together. Maybe I don't know. It seemed to me like they had this gang or organization or whatever you want to call it, not to do any bad shit. It was just like, how can we have one weekend a month where we get away from our wives, we get away from our girlfriends and just hang out with the fellas and listen to music too loud and drink some beers and, you know, fall down and laugh at each other or cook a barbecue. You know what I mean? They had a little house where they owned, and they met, and they could work on their bikes, and they would go on runs together, you know what I mean, from Sydney to Melbourne, which is 1,000 kilometres or something like that. So what's that, 600 mile or something like that? I don't know how to translate. But they would do little runs like that together.
Jamie, let's check out the distance between...
Fact check.
Fact check.
Fact check. We need to know the kilometers per...
He's like, what?
But they just seem like a bunch of sort of good old boys kind of thing, you know, that...
Yeah.
You know?
Good. And were there other, like some of the more notorious biker gangs around there? Did they ever get fucked with, or did they know they were just like a family? Like,
it seemed as though they were known and respected.
Oh, the mob shitters.
Yeah, but without... Again, I don't know too much about this sort of stuff, but it seems as though they were left to their own devices, and you know what I mean? They didn't get fucked with at all. And they did their little things and stuff like that. Whereas the other motorcycle gangs were, you know, up to no good, I guess. And firebombing tattoo shops. And, you know, there was a few years there of 10 years where they were like blowing up, setting fire to tattoo studios in Australia, left, right and centre.
Damn.
And that's hence why I want to say that's why the licensing sort of come into it. You know what I mean? They were trying to get rid of some element that was involved in tattooing. But again, that's just my outside looking in kind of view of it.
I see what you're trying to do, Chuck. You're trying to get me.
That's the opposite. It's the opposite.
No,
that's all you.
Because every time I go to yours, you change the camera.
I can't help. I'm trying to. Get
I'm not bored.
I'm trying to make you look bad.
We're editing that out.
No, we're not. I don't know how to do that kind of editing. And I just got back from Japan. I'm jet lagged as fuck. It's 4:00 in the morning to my body. And so you guys are lucky I'm awake and doing this. You wrap it up.
Oh my God. Hey, you're not supposed to
fucking producer.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to produce.
What else was there?
That being fucking said, the iPad is charging.
Okay.
But it's dying.
Okay, well.
So we're on 4% now. So I actually just wanted to wait until we got done with the bikies sort of segment.
Let's just talk about Johnny for a few more minutes.
Okay.
And so this is Johnny's last day here at Electromagnetic Tattoo. He's been here for a month tattooing. Did a lot of great fucking tattoos. And he lit some fires under my other boys' asses. So they did more tattoos. And I think everybody benefits when you're around Johnny. And we really appreciate you being here. We love you being here. Great, great presence in the shop. Customers love you. I love you, Steve. All these guys love you.
Customers love Johnny.
I consider myself very lucky to be, you know, to spend time with you and Steve and Charlie and Chris and Martin and Jake and Drea. So I feel like I'm the lucky person.
Oh, well, thank you. And we hope you'll come back maybe in April, March or April, something like that. If anybody got tattooed by Johnny, you want to get tattooed again, hopefully we'll have him back in the spring before summer, before it gets too hot and slows down again. And I hope everybody will come out and support tattooing. Wherever city you're in, just go support tattooing. Go to your favorite tattoo shop. Get a small tattoo. It's Christmas time. Get some gift certificates and help support tattooing. Buy t-shirts, buy paintings, like your people's posts. That's shit you can do free.
Share them for free.
Share it. Like, it's free and it's helping your friends and it makes you look cool when you share cool stuff. So do that. And I'm going to have another episode whenever I get around to it again. I don't know who I'm going to be talking to next time because, you know, it's my way or the fucking highway. So
Right.
I thank you guys for tuning in. Again, thanks to Joe for setting me up with this stuff. Charlie, great producer. Our fact checker over there, Alex. Is he awake?
Yeah.
Okay. And Johnny Casino, your fantastic friend. I love you so much. And I can't wait to see you again. Have a great trip home. He's going home to Spain with his lovely wife. And I'm sure she's happy to have you come home soon. What part of Spain do you live in?
Yeah, we live in two places, in Palencia, which is kind of halfway between Madrid in the north, and in Denia, which is on the east coast.
Okay, so there you go. You can catch him at Johnny Casino on Instagram, right?
You're asking me the hard questions.
I know. I'm a
If
hard
you go
news
to the,
person.
just go to the electromagnetic shop page, and then you can find.
Your link is in our bio too.
Right.
Okay.
No, it's not. But
No, there'll be a post, and it'll,
It
you
will
know,
be after today.
tagged or
And then you
something.
have a music. Do you have a music page as
No,
well?
it's the same one.
Okay, but he is on Spotify. Johnny Casino Music on Spotify. All your albums are on there, huh?
I think so. Yeah.
How many albums you got?
More than 20.
Great music, rock and roll. I don't even recognize your voice when I listen to you. I'm like, who is singing?
that is 100% true.
And a lot of them sound different. Your voice sounds different.
Mm.
Did you do that on purpose?
I think I do that to. I think that when I'm writing a song, I'm like, it's just about the emotion. So I'm trying to put the voice in that to fit the guitar tone or whatever it is.
That's awesome.
I'm not necessarily a singer, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to add to the music. I write them, but I'm not a great singer, so I can't, do all those vocal acrobatics or whatever it is. So
Well, when you come back, we're going to get the band, the EMT band
That's right,
together.
electromagnetics.
Because you're a guitar player. Chuck and Chris both play drums.
Yeah.
We got
I play a
Martin,
little guitar
the bass
too.
player. Steve sang in a bunch of bands when he was a kid.
You're
And
going to sing too.
I'm a fucking singer, okay?
Yeah.
I'm an entertainer.
That's right.
And I will sing my ass off. Old Bob Seger and AC/DC songs, I fucking kill it, man. So tune in next time you see a post or you see a video on YouTube. Like it, share it, subscribe. I don't get paid for this. Just you can show me love in the form of likes and shares and stuff like that. And as always, if you have questions, please ask. Somebody asked me a question, but I forgot it. So when I remember it, I'll make another video, okay? So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for your help, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Alex.
Woo! See you next time.
My way or the highway.
Thanks, Chuck.
That's what you can do, Chuck. Write like a little 30-second
Yeah, a little
theme song.
jingle.
You could be a SoundCloud
Yeah, right.
musician. Okay, you can stop recording.
Stop recording.
Yep.